personal story. We are trying to make my whole life story much better because we're going to be discussing some of the details in the way I related through power players or big people in my entire life, and also my relationships that occurred with my first wife, recently my second neurotypical wife, and then subsequently a third relationship which is just now starting, and are all representing major changes and big risks that were taken in my life and the lives of other people. And it's the big risks that bring the big opportunities. I'm also looking at the effects of the discovery and diagnosis of my autism very late, which was some 4 years ago. But the differences in the way an autistic views things and a neurotypical views things is that an autistic has a much more rational approach to things if they're interested in, say, mathematics, and they can do very well, and they can do very badly in areas of emotional activity. So neuropsychology is very important science in the 21st century. It takes a whole lifetime to understand neuropsychology and how it impacts lives. With an autistic, it's 100 times as hard for an autistic to get that perspective because they just don't think the way others think. Alone in their lives, they very often are because they don't have the connections with other autistics. Even though it's probably true that 25% of the world is autistic. The LEGAST, the life goals, are now legacy and an estate. The way to describe that is the financial and the personal side of the estate. The financial being represented by money or things of value. The estate part by personal things. That's the way I've taken to subdivide them. The personal things, which are primarily pictures. Tax and finance was another one that I focused on as a life goal. Taxes for the purpose of minimizing the tax paid, and finance for the financial side of investing. They focus on those as specific life goals. Social was another one that I wrote on for years. It includes my family history. In fact, it was written back in 1850. Travel is another documents, actually 3 documents. I've used it to represent all the trips in my life and also the bucket list for plans for the remaining parts of the life. Other ones involve specific trips to various locations. They involve the kinds of trips, for example, the stuff that would be required and the things that would be required to be done before a trip, or any other combination of summer and winter types of trips. That would be very specific to my life, but yet has use in terms of miniaturization of literally everything that you take on trips. And also physical aspects of that, which are sports. I was lucky as a young autistic. I played sports, and that gave me an acceptance that would have not been possible without that. Hobby and entertainment, I talk about such things as Monopoly and chess as ways that people can communicate and learn social skills, except that even though they're on the web today, it's not possible to get the social skills because you can kind of get, no matter what your behavior is, you can always find games. Home, car, and total pieces of items inside of each of those areas. They're pretty general to everybody's life, but there's value in them because you can find mistakes that are very easily made that everybody makes. A home being sometimes a very good investment, sometimes a very bad investment. Similarly with cars, can be a very good or can be a very bad investment, and I'd make some discussions about when each of those is true. One of the things that people don't understand about housing is that it costs about twice as much as you think it does for a house, and a car, you just basically have to pay too much for the interest. You don't realize that that's how much you're paying, so you are mortgaging your future with a car even more than with a house. It sounds strange, but that's basically true. And of course, when you have to have 2 or 3 cars with teenagers or others in your family, then you don't recognize once again how much of your future is mortgaged, even so much so that there may not be enough left for such things as college, and that's very, very bad. Thinking about those things ahead of time and trying to equalize, or at least somewhat equalize, the relations within the family for the amount of monies that are spent on various family members. File 2017 is physical health, and of course physical health is everything, literally everything. At our time in life, is pharmaceuticals, dental, medical, an exercise club, and insurance are some of the features of the medical side. As we become seniors, it's even more important than it was during the young years. As a teenager, everybody thinks that drugs are recreational. When you get older, they're just not so recreational. They aren't as much fun as possible. Then there are some miscellaneous topics. Power grid has, if you like, solar EMP. They are extremely serious to the whole human race, and people do not understand it and need to prepare for it ahead of time, because it happens within an instant in some cases. If we don't prepare and the power grid goes down in the United States, it's well known that over 90% deaths are expected in the U.S. within 1 year if the grid fails. Shocking, and people don't think about this ahead of time. Neighborhood watch is another one that autistics are very good at dealing with, and that's with or without gun discussion. With gun discussion is there are certainly in every neighborhood a bunch of gun-toting grannies, and they are often very afraid to come to the doors, so people ought to realize when they're coming to those doors that they are at risk of being shot. A no solicitors sign is a simple way to get rid of a lot of people coming to your door. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And so if anybody comes to the door, it's always good to know that you should tell them to back off, ask them to back off. If they don't, then they're at their own risk. PTSD and the military is a very big topic. There's PTSD from all the years of war that we've been at. From the Vietnam era, and I think 2010 or something, or maybe right around that area, we had as many people died PTSD after the war by committing suicide and other bad acts than there were who died in Vietnam during the war. And that's just mind-boggling when you think about it. There's been that after every war, but now we should be smart enough to be able to know that we need treatment and deal with it. Another topic is the latest findings about autistics. One is I found out that there is a Huntington, West Virginia center. There's a 90-year-old woman whose son was used as the basis for the Rain Man movie. There's Sesame Street characters. One is named Anna, and the Big Bird. Anna is autistic and the Big Bird is the bird, who is telling everyone about how to relate to Anna. And those things are just tremendous. Coming out as an autistic is a struggle always, and it's very important issues, and there's never been much discussion about it, so there should be. It's another program, national program, that's starting on most of the college campuses where one can get help on campus, because a lot of autistics somehow can get through their home life as children, and then they go on to a college campus and they're absolutely lost. And they're lost because of things that happened years before, not because of the campus, but they're unable to ever recover for the rest of their lives. And that's something that can be dealt with if it's caught. Corporate job programs is another approach to hire autistics at work. And the two big areas are IT and production. IT autistics have been known for years, and there are geek organizations to suck them in. But production is a fairly new area, and it's been very successful and will probably be more. Another topic is that a city interview to decide where to take your life in retirement or in your next status in the corporation or wherever you're doing. And city interviews are a topic that people have really asked me in the past, so it's coming from the people who have interest in this, not my own interest, but they've asked me to write books on. There's definitions in context and in Google, and they should be in Google, meaning that you always start with Googling, that's how you do research, but in context means the relationship between one word and a second word, and so I'm trying to do that, and I've come up with a way to, actually a number of ways to deal with that. And references, I've just indicated that I've got thousands of pages, 50 years of personal journals, part of my life goals, and those can be sent out through emails. And then I've got 4 years of public sources that I've reviewed. Some of them they're not my own personal writing, but they're those that I've seen on various newspapers and had them discuss that way. So passing on whatever I found from those results.